everyone, my name is Shauna, in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be talking about a movie that I watched recently, and this movie was called Underwater. This movie came out within the past few years, and they really tried to hype it up in the trailers, but I don't think it had the best box office opening of a movie ever. This movie stars Kristen Stewart, and Kristen Stewart is the reason why I watched this movie. I am a big sucker for watching movies based on an actor that I like in it, just one actor. And so Kristen Stewart was in this, and I decided to watch it. Underwater is a thriller slash almost horror that follows some characters who are in the deepest underwater station for drilling that there is in the world. And tragedy strikes, and these characters are trying to survive and get back up to the surface, which of course is a really big and dangerous feat to do because there's a lot of unknown variables down there. If you go up too high too quickly, there's pressure that can kill you. Obviously, you can only be inside enclosed spaces in order to breathe. You have to wear suits if you're going to leave the station because it's so deep underwater. So the idea of this movie was really interesting, and I think the movie did accomplish what it set out to accomplish. The trailers definitely overhyped the scary element of it. I am someone who hates anything scary, but I was not scared at all during this movie, which is saying a lot. I'm sort of proud of myself for that, but it's also saying that this movie was presented as one thing and it didn't necessarily accomplish that scary element that it was presented as in the trailers. I wish that the underwater monsters would have been a bigger part of the movie though, because those were supposedly the main villains, but it felt more like a survival story of surviving the elements than of a monster movie. However, I did think that the monsters were actually realistic. I mean, they're definitely not real, but it was more realistic than other monsters I've seen in movies, and it added a little bit of a creepy element that they could be real because we haven't explored all of the ocean, and so there could be creatures like this that are extremely dangerous down really deep in the ocean to spots that we haven't reached yet. So I was sort of happy with that this movie felt like it was possible to happen. Obviously it's all fictional, but it was possible because there is parts of the ocean that we haven't explored yet. It would be like a space adventure where they travel to a planet that's like farther off, but it's like just realistic enough that it could happen in the future. I like movies like that where it's definitely sci-fi, fantasy, but you can see the potential for it actually happening in real life. That adds like a creepy element to it. I love movies like that. I do have to say that I was slightly bored at the start. So it jumps right into the action, but however when it jumps right into the action, it felt like it jumped in too quickly, and I was actually bored because it's weird. There's like tons of action. There's obviously like stuff happening, but I wasn't connected to the characters yet, and so it was really hard to keep myself interested in the movie at first. It took some time of just like sitting there and telling my brain you have to focus on this movie before I could start to enjoy parts of it and before I could start to appreciate the movie for what it was. Since I watched this movie for Kristen Stewart, I obviously want to comment on her performance, and I think that this is actually Kristen Stewart's best performance that I've ever seen in a movie. I've seen Twilight movies, plus I saw Zathura, I saw The Happiest Season, and I think this performance was the best for her. I think she did really well with this like survival element and like making it really realistic and making you really feel for the character. I think Kristen Stewart is a phenomenal actor. I think people just look down upon her and like don't actually take her work seriously because of Twilight, which is really sad because I didn't actually see Kristen Stewart first in Twilight. I saw her in Zathura, and so I can like picture her as more characters than just Bella, especially with the fact that her hair isn't even brown in this movie, it isn't even long. But yeah, Kristen Stewart is just amazing, and I wish more people would appreciate her works and stop just focusing only on Twilight. And with Twilight, by the way, she did accomplish the goal of her character, and she did portray the character really well, because if you read the Twilight books, she was pretty accurate to Bella in the books. So Kristen Stewart, love her so much. She is amazing. More people need to appreciate her as an actor and ignore Twilight if you think Twilight's cringy. I just have a few more things to say. This movie was fairly short and it lacked a lot of substance to the movie, so I don't have too many strong thoughts in it. Like, I wish this movie would have been longer to give more backstories to the characters because it felt like they were just trying to shove as much action as possible in there, and most of the characters don't get a solid backstory. So I do want to say that it is weird and not my favorite that they killed the only black character off literally right away. And it was the most bloodiest death in the film. And whenever a film does that, like they introduce a character of color, then they kill them off right away, I'm always like, were you just doing that to try and get diversity points? Because why'd you kill him off right away? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And his death didn't make sense to me either, because I was like, you could have waited to kill him. He had so much potential. He could have brought so much to the story, and they just went, nope, kill him right away, and it really frustrated me. Speaking of frustration, the ending was very frustrating to me. It fit for the character, the big decision that was made, but it made me sad and frustrated. It didn't make me sad like, oh, I'm gonna cry. It made me frustrated like, oh, this makes me not like the movie as much. And it's hard to describe without spoiling it, but there is an action taken at the end of the movie that I think a lot of people would not be a huge fan of. And I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to spoil it. So, my overall opinion on this movie was that it was an okay watch. There was things that were fun about it, things that were good about it, but overall it was nothing I'd rewatch, and it's nothing spectacular that I'd rave about online about how much I love it. Like, it's not amazing, but I would say that it was worth the watch for me. I watched this one on HBO Max. It will be available on HBO Max until January 31st. I've been trying to go through and watch a lot of the movies that they're taking off of HBO Max and Hulu because I just want to watch them before they get off. So this was just one that was on my checklist of ones that were leaving soon that I wanted to watch. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me if you haven't already. I'll have all of my other social media linked down in the description below if you want to check that out. I sort of update on Twitter what I'm watching, like when I'm watching it and when I finish it. So definitely go check out my Twitter if you want to see more of the movies that I've been watching recently. My next video will be uploaded next Tuesday, and I hope to see all of you there. Until next time, goodbye!